Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at a little micro game. It is Escape Deathrace 2182. Escape Deathrace is brought to you by Good Day Games. It's for 1 to 4 players ages 8 and up, and games range anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. Welcome to 2182. Your galaxy has been taken hostage by an evil alien race known as the Zillian. The Zillian leader has locked down several planets with his hordes of OMG-Zilla's serpent creatures and even reprogrammed your own automated robot defenses into an unhappy death turrets. Armed with his electromagnetic golden monkey wrench staff, the Zillian leader has transformed the land into a death race, calling himself the Race Master. He has placed his minions at different checkpoints in hopes of thwarting the heroes on their rally to destroy him. Atop the highest peak, he waits for the strongest hero to survive his death race in an attempt to beat him at his own game. Today, you will take on the role of one of 6 individuals that have what it takes to stop the threat of the Zillian assault. With the power of these almost magical race cars, unique special abilities, and gritty personalities, there is still a chance to save the world. Unfortunately, these possible heroes are not all friends. Some are even enemies. Frenemies or not, there can only be one survivor. How can they work together against a common foe when only one can survive? Let's find out. So, this is a micro game, and it does all fit in this tin. There's a ton of game here in this tiny tin. It's pretty amazing what they were able to jam pack into here. Now, there's several different card types we'll take a look at. First, we have an event deck, and as you travel along the track and you hit mile marker 82, you're gonna pull an event card and do what it says. There's all kinds of different possibilities with these cards, so every game is gonna be very different and shuffle them up and so forth. So you also have a power deck, and as the players start, they're going to start with a couple different power deck cards, one being the magical monkey wrench and the other a random set. So those cards are going to be divvied out to all the different players. And you also have a reference card for the bosses. This is tracking their health. Now, a lot of what you do in this game is all based on a D4, except it's all in a deck of cards, which is really handy because the cards lay out for you or list exactly what the results are based on what you're trying to do. So if you take a look at one of these cards, you'll see at the bottom we have things like hazards. You're going to be pulling cards for hazards. You're going to be pulling cards when you battle it out with a fellow player. You'll be pulling cards for a drive-by shooting of a fellow player. And when you battle the bosses, you'll be pulling these cards, as well as when you use one of the landmines, which brings us to items. You have item tokens. You're going to start the game with a set of these, and you have fire drop, you have smoke bomb, you have gunfire, and the landmine. So each player will get a set of these tokens that you can use and will greatly aid you throughout the game. And of course, you have the cards that are the track that you're traveling upon. Now, when you're going through this deck, first thing you're going to look for is the start tile and the last boss. The last boss is the main Zillian leader, and he's designated by the 3 H's on his card. So you'll pull those 2 cards out, shuffle the rest, and put them to the side. Then each player is going to pick their character, or you can randomly deal them out, which is how they prefer or suggest you do it. But each of these characters will be starting at level 20 health. You'll take their corresponding cube as well as their marker for their health. Now, all these characters have a cool little bio on the back of the card, as well as their own special abilities. Here we're taking a specific look at Good Day Games, right? So he has some special abilities for movement, which is really handy. But all of these different characters are going to give you very different abilities throughout the game, giving you some fun replayability for sure. So to start the game off, each player is going to have their character card along with 2 power cards, one of which being that magical monkey wrench, 4 item tokens or 4 weapon tokens, and your cube then will be placed out on the start track. Now, gameplay here is very simple. So you'll take the D4 deck and shuffle it up and draw the top card. It's important to note that this D4 deck, you will always shuffle it before drawing. So keep that in mind because it's going to be used quite frequently throughout the game. And you could substitute in a D4 if you wish, but the nice thing again about these cards is that everything you're doing is listed out on the card and gives you the results. So based on the card you pulled will determine how many road tiles that you draw. You will get to lay these out in the track however you see fit. Now, it's important to note that moving along the track, you'll also use the number of that card to move. So you don't have to always move forward though. You can move backwards, you can follow different paths if there are any. It's up to you how you move your car. In this scenario, we have rolled a 4. So we pull 4 tiles and lay them out. In this particular layout, we've pulled a fire tile, which is -2 damage. We also have a mile marker 82, which gives us the event deck. So you'll pull an event card and do what it says. Now, there could be positives, there could be negatives to these event cards, but it's very clearly marked on this card what you need to do. You just follow the instructions. And there's also a nitro, which will move you along the track faster. And there's the boss. And if you run into the boss tile, you have to stop and deal with the boss. And the way you deal with bosses, again, is going to the D4 deck. You're going to be shuffling it up and pulling a card. But in the case of a boss battle, if you have pulled this level 4 in a boss battle, you deal 0 damage because it's a miss. It's a critical failure in the case of a boss. So as you can see, this D4 deck will just give you the results based on what you're trying to do. Again, there's multiple things here. Now, one of the other tiles that you don't see here yet is a hazard tile. Hazards are going to also be an indicator of pulling these cards, and it will give you the results of a hazard. And in the case of a 4, you survived and you just keep on racing. So on your turn, you also have the option to be using your power cards. You can be using them any point during your turn, but you can only use 1 card. And if you don't use one, you have the option of discarding one of your power cards and drawing a new one. And you also have your item or your weapon tokens that can be used as well. But there's some instances where they can't. So you'll want to keep an eye on what you're doing and where you are on the track so you know when and where you can use these. But one of the things is a drive-by. If you're moving past a fellow player at the table, you might do a drive-by and attack them. And this is very straightforward. You'll take the D4 deck and you'll shuffle it up and draw. And the results will be listed on the card as you drive by them. However, the player that you drive by cannot counterattack unless you have a special ability as a character to do so. Or you might choose to battle it out. The way this works is you've landed on a tile with a fellow player. If it's not a boss tile, you got to deal with bosses first. But in general, you land on their tile and you can choose to battle it out. Now, the thing here is that each of you are going to draw from the D4 deck. The attacker does go first, but based on the results in the draw, will determine what happens. You might do damage, you might miss, and that'll just be it for that battle it out. Now, you can't use power cards and you can't use your item tokens when doing this battle it out in the spot. But if you are destroyed, your health is reduced to 0, you do explode and everyone in the tile will take a damage. So that's pretty handy. As you go out of the game, you go out of the game with a bang. And finally, let's take a look at boss battles, because this is how you're going to end the game, is destroying all the bosses. And the final boss has the 3 H's, the leader of the Zillian. You can't engage with him until you've defeated the other bosses. So when you do land on one of those other boss tiles, though, you can't move off of it until he's defeated. And multiple players can be there on their turns working on defeating him and lowering his health to 0. Now, you can't fight amongst yourselves until that boss is defeated on that tile. And to kick things off, the boss gets first strike. -3 damage to the attacker. But there's 3 steps to this. You're going to obviously go to the D4 deck, draw it, and see what happens, what the results are when you're fighting the boss. Now, you can use one of your item token, weapon tokens here on the boss, and you can use a power card, or you can choose to exchange your power card for a new one. But you will battle it out that way until the boss is destroyed, and then you get rewards. So, as the player that defeated the boss, you can collect any of the weapon drop tokens that were in this area during this battle, and you get to collect or draw a power card. Now, if you're just in this spot when the boss gets defeated, you as one of the other players can collect any of the tokens, one of any of the tokens that have been dropped in that battle as well. So everyone can get some benefits, but then you could battle it out amongst yourselves. So you got to watch out for your fellow players always. And so the game continues this way until you've defeated all the bosses and escaped. Remembering, of course, you can't take on that final boss until the other 3 have been destroyed. Now, when you get down to that final boss, you can start affecting your other players with weapon drops as well. Things like that really play into, if you defect them and take them out before you take the boss out, you can potentially win. So there's lots of scenarios and things that can play out there as you're battling it out amongst yourselves. So it really does have a lot of back and forth, a lot of give and take. And those event cards really do come into play and really can help you out, especially as your health starts dropping. But they're not always positive as well. But you want to be the last man standing, obviously, in this game. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, there is a ton of game in this tiny tin, and it has a decent table presence to it as well. And I'm just amazed at how much they were to jam pack in here. There's lots of neat things about it, and I love how quick the games play, the back and forth between the players, and dealing with the bosses is really fun. But what I really like is the different characters and all their different abilities and how you incorporate that into what you're doing. And when those event cards come out and how you deal with that. So there's lots of neat aspects to this game. But ultimately, folks, if this looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.